24 hours, former President Donald Trump will appear at the federal courthouse in Miami. Trump is now at his resort in Doral ahead of the arraignment. He has been indicted on 37 counts, accused of mishandling classified national defense documents. Good evening. I'm Tiffany Kenny.
And I'm Felicia Rodriguez. Thank you for joining us. We have live team coverage from Miami-Dade. Angela Rozier is in Doral, where dozens of Trump supporters gathered. Tara Jakeway shares what security measures will be in place ahead of Trump's scheduled arraignment.
We begin with our co-anchor, Todd McDermott, who is live outside Trump's resort in Doral, where the former president is tonight. Todd?
Tiffany, Felicia, 21 hours from now, Donald Trump will go to the federal courthouse in Miami. He appears at 3 p.m. to be arraigned on those 37 federal counts against him in that federal indictment that we saw unsealed last Friday. Again, they're related to classified documents taken from the White House when he left office after losing the election and then keeping them at Mar-a-Lago. The case specifically involves the willful retention of those documents and refusal to return them when they were requested by the National Archives. Some of it very, very sensitive national security material. The charges include conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and the willful retention of national defense secrets. That is, nuclear weapons and programs, attack plans, U.S. defenses against an attack, even a top secret map that he allegedly shared with someone who had no clearance at the time. ABC News reports it is unlikely Trump will have a full legal team hired when he is in Miami in court tomorrow at the federal courthouse to be arraigned on those charges. He's expected to have lawyer Todd Blanche by his side, who's also representing Trump in the Manhattan District Attorney case against Trump for hush money payments made to Stormy Daniels before the 2016 election. Attorney Chris Kise, who's based in Florida and working on other legal matters on behalf of the former president, is expected to also be there as well. But again, the full legal team not in place, still trying to hire attorneys for this. When Trump arrives at the Miami Federal Courthouse, he'll be formally placed under arrest by the very government he once was elected to lead. Again, once he's formally booked, he'll appear before the judge, process as a federal defendant, and appear for that judge, Eileen Cannon, for his arraignment. Trump does say that he will plead not guilty to all these crimes. He'll either enter the plea himself or have one of his attorneys do it. He has continually dismissed the charges again as a political witch hunt and says he is not leaving the 2024 presidential race, where he's still the prohibitive front runner for the Republican nomination. We have team coverage for you now from Doral and from Miami. Angela Rozier will look at some of the people who were here today gathered to greet the former president when he arrived. We'll start with Tara Jakeway down in Miami with a look at the extreme measures taken to provide security at the federal courthouse for the Trump arraignment tomorrow. Tara?
And Todd, extreme is a good word. This is a big security production down here. They want to leave no stone unturned. We are at the west entrance. That's one of 3 entrances to the federal courthouse. When we first got here, Tim and I and my photographer, we were the only ones here, and we've seen the media kind of scramble to all of the entrances to try to figure out the path that they are going to take. Now, a no-fly zone will soon be put in place over downtown Miami, where all day we've seen law enforcement from multiple county, state, and federal agencies, from Homeland Security to Miami PD, Fire Rescue, Miami-Dade Special Response Teams, and even park rangers. Blockades and police tape are up all around the building, where hundreds of media professionals have set up shop to capture the historic, never-before-seen moment. A former U.S. president is arraigned in federal court. Officials for the city of Miami held a press conference this afternoon to ensure the public that they are prepared. Chief Morales saying they will be using a layered approach for law enforcement. At the top level, a control room.
All the individuals that are able to make any type of significant decision that impacts the deployment of resources or the shifting of strategies and techniques that we're going to be using to keep the city safe will be in the same room.
In our city, we obviously believe in the Constitution and believe that people should have the right to express themselves, but we also believe in law and order, and we know that and we hope that tomorrow will be peaceful.
And the Miami mayor going on to implore Miami citizens to be peaceful, and if something takes a turn, they will be prepared. Now I'm going to turn things over to my colleague Angela Rozier in Doral. She was there when Trump supporters arrived there this afternoon. Angela?
That's right, Tara. As a matter of fact, when those supporters were here, they were waiting for the former president to arrive here at his golf club, of course, here in Doral. And as the day went by, the crowd continued to grow. Now, when they showed up here today, they had their flags, they had their red, white, and blue attire on. They also said that they were here to support the former president. Now, he is here for Tuesday's federal court appearance on dozens of felony charges accusing him of illegally hoarding classified documents. Supporters say what's being done is unjust and he is the person to lead this country.
What impressed me with this man, I saw him in Sanford backstage. Somebody said to him, "You're the most greatest man." He is.
And I think we all need to unite together and look at the cause of what's really going on.
And that was one of the themes, Todd, uniting together. And now the crowd gone right now. We did talk to a handful of non-Trump supporters. What I'm being told by both sides is there will be another protest, a peaceful protest tomorrow at the courthouse.
All right, we'll see how big a crowd gathers at the courthouse. And again, some will be out here tomorrow when former President Trump leaves Doral to go to Miami.
That's
Angela,
right.
thank you. Again, now, Donald Trump won't be in Florida long. We told you he arrived just before 3 o'clock, got here to Doral to his golf club shortly after 3. After that arraignment at 3, as soon as he's out of the courthouse, apparently heading to the airport, flying back to Newark Airport and heading back to Bedminster to the golf club he owns there. There's a fundraiser planned for tomorrow night, and that's at 8:15. And the former president does plan to speak to the assembled supporters at Bedminster. For now, I'm Todd McDermott, live in Doral at the Trump Golf Club, where he is right now awaiting that arraignment tomorrow. Much more coming your way at 11 o'clock tonight. Tiffany and Felicia, back to you.
Todd, thank you. And stay with WPBF 25 on air and online for the latest coverage on the indictment of former President Donald Trump. You can also read the entire 49-page document online.